Ivy's going even. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to this special meeting of the Wethersfield Board of Education. It's June 19th, 2023. It is 6:30 p.m. We're in the Town Hall chambers. Ellen, roll call, please.
Good evening, everyone. Mrs. DeRoberts?
Here.
Mrs. Drew?
Here.
Mrs. Granato?
Present.
Mr. Healy?
Here.
Mr. Lacavoli?
Here.
Dr. Regan Lefebvre?
Here.
Mr. Riley?
Here.
Vice Chair Mr. Cassio?
Present.
And Chairperson Mr. Carey?
Here.
All present.
Thank you. If we could stand for the pledge and have Mr. Kazaka lead us.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Mr. Cassio, I believe you have a motion for us.
Yes, I do. Thank you, everyone, for joining us on this beautiful day. I'd make a motion that we move that the Wethersfield Board of Education authorize a budget transfer from the 2022-2023 operating budget for the purpose of purchasing classroom technology, infrastructure, and student musical instruments.
Thank you. We have a motion and a second. Mr. Emmett, can you give a quick background?
Absolutely. Understanding that this was the purview of the Board of Education moving forward, this budget transfer, given the fact that we are currently in a favorable condition in this operating budget, this budget transfer would allow us to make a purchase of desktops for our classrooms, which was requested in next year's budget and not funded. In addition to that, we would also look to purchase $30,000 worth of musical instruments. So at this point in time, I can let the board know. I had a conversation earlier today with Jim DeRegan, so he is prepared to move forward with the purchase of desktops. And did have a conversation with Sally DeStoli. She has spoken with Emily Caravella already today, and will be also speaking with Michael Bowles to begin work on that pending this approval.
Thank you. Any questions?
Just to make it clear, I know that we've fielded some questions from the public about the ESC funds and if that figures in. So we've had that conversation and you've already told me, but maybe just to make sure the public knows how that figures in or doesn't figure in this year.
We have received no additional educational cost share monies. We had an educational cost share total of approximately $13.1 million. That has been allocated in its entirety as part of our budget. We did check in with the town on that. So there's no additional money. There will be additional funding coming in the following year. It is a biennial budget, so we will see an increase to ECS for the 24-25 school year.
Thank you.
But to be clear, we're making a transfer in the 22-23 budget, where, and that ECS question is really towards the 23-24 budget.
That's correct.
I just want to make sure everyone's on the same page. Any other questions on that budget transfer? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstention? Motion carries. Thank you. Mr. Cassio, I believe you have a motion for us.
Yes, I do. Reluctantly, I move that the Wethersfield Board of Education approve the 2023-2024 operating budget of $61,863,166 as allocated by the Wethersfield Town Council.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Thank you. Mr. Emmett.
Yes, we've made some further adjustments to, again, be able to get some of the items that we desperately needed for next year. So I do want to make sure everyone is aware of the fact that we will be looking to fill the secondary special education position at Wethersfield High School. That will come at the cost of one of our reading teachers at the middle school. That reading position, the individual in that position will actually move to one of our other vacancies, so there is no reduction in force there. In addition to that, we are looking for higher teacher retirement savings with lower cost new hires, and we are looking to utilize those funds to be able to add the Silas Deane Middle School social worker for next year. So again, everything else that was in the budget reductions, pension contribution, Medicare Part B, reduced the math program to first year only from 5-year. We eliminated an elementary social worker. We did not fund two special ed positions, one at the middle school, one for elementary. In addition to that, we are looking at a open choice per pupil revenue adjustment of $200,000. We're still solid with that. The excess cost reimbursement adjustment, we adjusted that up slightly. That, again, the state has committed to an 88% reimbursement rate for Wethersfield, which is up above where we had budgeted. And again, one of the other items that we're reducing here, the correct teacher residency position, we had 2 originally budgeted. We are reducing 1, so that's a savings of $40,000. And again, as I mentioned, teacher retirement savings with lower cost new hires, $151,484. So that gets us to where we need to be.
Thank you. Any questions?
I just have,
Yes, go
I
ahead.
have a comment. I'm on the CREC Council, which is 35 surrounding towns from our area right here, and as I talk to my colleagues, none of them are going through this. I'm so disappointed in the town council as they sought to put the budget savings for the town on the backs of our children. Our children are our future, and we should be giving them exactly what they need to have a bright future. Thanks.
Thank you. Anyone else? Yes, Mr. Cassio.
You know, we learn from our mistakes, and I'm just curious how we can do better next year when this school budget comes forward. You know, what is it that seemed to have been the misunderstanding by the town council? I think that's number one. I can't say that we as a board have done anything wrong. We've been very transparent with ongoing expenses. So I reluctantly, and we need to approve this budget, but it's very difficult. So I'm just wondering if we as a board and a central office, when we propose our budget, we could have said we would have shaved our heads if you approved our budget. Mike, you've got the clippers.
I know. Somehow I think, John, I'd be bald,
Well,
unfortunately.
you know, it's almost like we just cut and reduced. We didn't, it's not they just didn't supply us with the means to move forward. I think that's the problem. They didn't cut anything, they just didn't listen to us as a board. So they just did not supply our district with the proper way of moving forward. So, so maybe we should, you know, so that was it.
Thank you. I prefer to keep my hair, but okay.
No, it'll grow quick.
Dr. Regan LaFave.
I will also be keeping my hair, I hope. It's difficult because I think this board operates in a largely nonpartisan manner, but unfortunately the town council operates in a highly partisan manner. And for those of us in the minority, we feel we have absolutely zero influence because we don't caucus with the majority on town council. So I'm very sympathetic to the Republicans in the Board of Ed, but I hope also that you have the opportunity to caucus with those members from your team and make them see sense. It's very frustrating and disappointing. I just want to talk through a little bit for the public record, like exactly what has happened here to allow us to find that 1.5 million, because I've had a lot of questions from the public about it, and I know some people are tuning in at home. So for one thing, we got a little bit lucky in that Matt Gonzaga was a little bit conservative at the time the budget was initially produced, and it turns out we're getting a little bit more money from the state, and we don't need to pay certain things we thought we'd have to pay, namely Medicare Part B reimbursement. So that comes off the total amount. So that's just really great luck. We also have taken money that was an underspend from this year's budget and are paying it forward next year instead of returning it to the town. That's what we just voted on. And then what we've done is prioritize the sort of 2 top positions that we want to fund, and we have budgeted them for a relatively junior teacher to enter the field. But there's a lot there that we are still not funding that we think is critical, that we think is essential in some ways for compliance, especially with special education teachers, and essential for dealing with the mental health crisis amongst adolescents, which has been front page news for a few years now. So on the one hand, I'm really, really grateful and feel huge relief that a combination of sort of good fortune, good planning, and, and luck has allowed us to be in this position, but we're still not funding everything we want. We will get by. I think the kids will be okay, but it's pretty minimal. And I also want to make clear, because this has come up in previous meetings that were not recorded or streamed, that I've asked this question about costs going up, and it's been explained to me that in some cases we've seen, say, supplies go up 10% in this year's budget. There's actually a cut built in there. We're actually getting fewer supplies. I'm making up the supplies issue. I don't have the line-by-line budget in front of me. Because we all know of inflation, costs have gone up. So we have situations where we haven't actually asked for what we usually would because the cost is exorbitant, because it's gone up that much. So we are getting less for our schools. We are not getting the teachers we think we need. We're not getting the materials we think we need. And we are not actually showing what it really costs to run our schools. So I'm relieved and pleased, and I will vote in favor of this budget so that we can move forward. But I want the public to understand it really falls short of what our schools need to be the outstanding institutions that I know they are.
Thank you. Anyone else? Yes, Mr. Riley.
Wanted to thank everybody on the board and everybody in the audience for their help with this budget. And I just wanted to point out, although John said there are no cuts, there certainly have been no adds. The budget increase that we were allocated was 3.33%, and everyone up here and probably a lot of folks in the public know that 3% of that goes towards salaries and benefits, so we're basically left with nothing by the town council to increase anything.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Yes.
And we certainly know that to our best ability, the students will be all right, but this impacts our teachers, their ability to do their jobs up to the level that they expect of themselves. I know as a teacher, you always have high expectations, and it's very frustrating, I'm sure, for our teachers, and makes it very hard. Nationwide, there's a teacher shortage. People are not going into the profession, and this budget certainly doesn't help that situation.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Yes.
Yes.
So, thank you, Mr. Tran. Every budget that this board, whether this is my sixth, is obviously it's a process, and we feel very strongly about it. But there are other things at work here. We'd hoped that the state would have, our formula would have been better and more money was coming from the state legislature, which is controlled by another party, that Republicans did vote for, and Democrats did, which didn't give us the sort of, I think, money that we in turn as taxpayers send to the state of Connecticut in large doses, did not return on those dollars. I think that's something that you need to keep that in mind as well. And, on the town council, they have their role to play by statute, and, their thinking, from what I can glean, I don't have any insight, is they felt that they're trying to obviously keep the cost of living here in Wethersfield attainable by everybody. Obviously, you'd like to have a budget for things that you really want and need, and I do think the things that we left on the table were needs, and that I hope maybe as the economy hopefully does not deteriorate, and if it does, we're going to be in a much more time next time, even with expanded ECS funding. But I think anyone who follows the economy knows that the next year and a half may be very unsettling everywhere, not just here, everywhere, and that'll have an impact on home values, that'll have an impact on tax receipts and other things. So I think this budget, while I would wish it was more, I think the staff has done a very good job trying to minimize the damage, and that I'm glad we were able, Jennifer and I were actually worked on the music together, and I'm glad we're making a step for that, and the other issues with the math and the laptops. There are a lot of good things in this budget that are for the future. But I will be supporting it as well, and I want to thank all the staff that worked very hard and the other board members who put a lot of time into this document.
Thank you. Anyone else? All right, seeing none. Thank you, Mr. Kazaka, for all your work getting this together. Thank you, Sally and Michael.
He keeps
For working
getting
hard.
younger looking. I don't understand that. It's not supposed to work that way.
All right, seeing none, we have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstention? Motion carries. Thank you, everyone. Do we have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second? Anyone?
Second.
Thank you. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Abstention? Motion carries. Thank you, everyone.